Welcome to Time to Teach with Tammy, the podcast that gives tips, advice, and suggestions to teachers by a real teacher. So sit back and enjoy. And oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Welcome back, and today's episode I actually have one of those tiny topics. Well, actually I can't remember what in the world I said I was going to start calling them, but one of those episodes that don't quite fit into the series. So whatever I said I was going to call it, I think I'm going to stick with tiny topics, because tiny not because the size of the episode, but tiny because it just doesn't fit into the series. So we've been working on a classroom climate series, and actually by the time this airs, I don't know where that's going to fit in. So I'm just kind of recording it at that same time, but yeah, it's probably this will not be fitting into the series. So I'm going to call it a tiny topic. And actually today's tiny topic is really just all about what do you do when you're having a bad day as a teacher? So I'm really actually going to draw on some of my own strategies, because as I have mentioned many, many times, and if you listen to this podcast, you know, sorry to keep repeating it, but I'm very much into positive psychology. So I'm always looking at, not necessarily about how to be happy, although that's what we do hope for, but when we're thinking about positive psychology, it's more of a contentment and maybe even a lot of prevention and just strategies to handle stress and strategies to handle anything negative that comes your way. And I am very into that because I do want to be happy. I feel like I am happy. So I started actually thinking today about it would probably be nice to have some strategies for when we inevitably have a bad day at work. So why did I start thinking about this? Because I didn't actually have a bad day, but today definitely was not one of my best days in terms of how I was feeling. And that is actually what inspired this topic. So what I did is I kind of made a list of things that I do, and I thought that would be maybe something that would be very helpful and beneficial to share. So I know I'm not the only one who has bad days. So I think these tips can be very helpful, especially and really only if you decide to utilize them. Yeah, I guess they won't be helpful if you decide not to try them out. But these are I was just really thinking about what do I do in these situations? And it was good that I actually got to experience a day where I just, it just was not my best day. It wasn't like a horrible day. There wasn't anything that really, really happened. But, there were some things that kind of got me in, definitely not at 100%. So I did think about, okay, what are the things that I do? And that is what I'm going to share with you now. So number one, this is a very basic, but something that I like to do is just kind of stop and breathe for a minute, because I feel like sometimes when we're in that moment or we're feeling very aggravated and stressed out or upset or just, things just are not working out, it's really, really easy to get caught up in that negative feeling. So one of the things that I like to do is just take a moment to breathe and just remember that, okay, I'm standing right here in this space. So even if perhaps my negativity is stemming from the fact that I know that I'm about to enter into a situation that might feel uncomfortable, or perhaps I just feel like there have been a series of events, maybe perhaps negative events in that day that have brought me to this negative space. So I just kind of like to stop and center myself, because I really feel like most of our demons, and I've said this before, most of our demons are inside our head. So if we can control those demons, yes, I'm calling them demons, but all those negative thoughts are really most of them, we make them bigger than what they really are. So I like to center myself and remind myself, okay, I'm right here. I'm in my classroom. Center myself, and that just keeps my mind from floating off into all the different areas that it definitely could float off to. And I feel like that's when personally I start feeling some anxiety. So I start going to a place where maybe I don't necessarily want to go, especially during the school day. I really want to be in the most positive and healthy mind frame that I can. So I center myself and just remind myself mentally where I am, take a few breaths, and I guess really just try to be mindful, if anything else. But I think we hear mindful all the time, and not that it's overplayed, but I think we need to understand what it means to be mindful and why we're trying to do that. Because really in a situation like this, you truly are trying to not allow your mind to go or to continue to go into a negative place. So you want to take some deep breaths and center yourselves. Number 2, the next thing that I do, this is not necessarily in any consecutive order. These are just the things that I do, not in any particular order. But another thing that I do is I allow myself to not be at 100. So when I start having a day that is not a great day, it's just I'm not having a very good day, I tell myself that's okay. So today I'm probably not going to perform my most stellar lesson ever. And this is not by any means to set me up for failure, because I don't believe in that. I'm a very positive person, and I'm a very positive thinking person, but I think part of my positivity is because I do know how to take it easy when I need to. Now, I would say most of our days should not be like this, right? Most of our days, I'm not telling myself, oh, it's okay if you're not at 100%. It's okay if you're not giving it your all. Obviously, we want to have more days where we're giving it our all, but we have to be kind of easy on ourselves. Just take it easy and give ourselves, when we're having a day that's difficult, to say, you know what? I'm not going to be at my top performance, and that's going to be okay today because I'm just having one of those days, and I need that to be okay. And in fact, that was one of the days that I had today. Felt like there were just some situations happening that made it a little more challenging to really do everything in my classroom exactly the way I normally would. And I needed to be okay with that. I needed to be okay with the fact that things were going to run a little bit differently. I needed to be okay with the fact that I would not be underperforming, but that it wouldn't be my most awesome day in the classroom for sure, and that was okay. I still had a really good day with the kids, actually surprisingly well, much better than I had thought that it would go, so that worked out very nicely. And maybe my lessons were not 100% or wouldn't have won any prizes today, but they definitely were still very good lessons and did the job. And sometimes that's what's going to happen, and we have to understand that. And I think everyone understands the human aspect to what life is. So yeah, just kind of accepting that. If we can just go into the situation knowing it and accepting it and just being easy on ourselves, cutting ourselves some slack, it really helps to at least feel a little bit better, because you've given yourself that permission and said, okay, I'm going to take it easy. I'm going to take it easy on me, and I'm going to give myself permission to just have one of those days that won't be, the day that goes down in history for being the best. And that's okay. That is okay. And then something else that I like to do is if I am really in that place that is making it difficult to have a good day. And there will be various reasons, obviously, that we won't always have good days, right? Like many different things can happen. Situations with coworkers, personal situations, health. I mean, just so many different things that can happen. And so this is really for any of the reasons. But I like to ask myself, what is it that is coming up that I'm looking forward to? So you know what? It might just be, I'm looking forward to that time that I get to go home, which very rarely am I ever living for that moment, because I'm a firm believer that I don't want to be the kind of person who lives for Friday. I don't want to be the kind of person who lives for the weekend. I certainly don't want to be the kind of person who lives for the moment I go home. And anyone who knows me knows that I'm still there usually 4:30, sometimes 5. So I'm definitely not the first one running out the door. So I am not living for that time. But on certain days, if that is what I can look forward to, then that's what I'm going to look forward to. Maybe I know that I'm making this awesome dinner when I go home, and maybe I'm not necessarily looking forward to the act of cooking, although I do enjoy it to the point where it's therapeutic, but I'm tired when I come home. So, it is somewhat of a task that I must just do and get through. But sometimes that is something that I'll look forward to. Okay, well, I know that today I'm making this really great dish, and that's what I'm going to look forward to. So just something that you have that you're looking forward to. And maybe it's actually not that immediate. Hopefully you do have something that you can look forward to in the day, even if it's like, well, if you're like me, the time before I go to bed is my reading time. And that's a very nice, quiet activity. I love that. I love it because everything is done. All the day's tasks and jobs and chores are done. And it's a quiet time that I get to be in bed and I get to read. And I do look forward to that moment every day. So hopefully you do have something every day that you can look forward to. But again, as you can see, those are not huge things. I'm not talking about, I've got this big reunion coming up. No, it could be really just the very simple things. And I find pleasure in simple things. I think that's why I'm so content in life, is because I just truly find so much happiness and joy in the very small things, which I don't think are small, but I think it's easy to overlook and forget how wonderful they are, and just really what treasures they are. Having that quiet moment where I can read, that's a treasure, because my days are pretty loud, really, really loud actually, and busy, of course. That's what comes with the territory of being an educator. So yeah, having something to look forward to. So if it is something in the day, I think that's good, because that gives you something really, really soon. But even if it is something that is coming up soon that you're looking forward to, but really just knowing that, okay, this is a moment that I'm having. It's not my best moment, but I'm looking forward to this other moment that's coming up. And that is not to make it sound like it's bad for us to have moments like that. I don't think that it's necessarily bad. It's really part of life. But obviously, I really strongly believe that when we have bad moments, we have difficult moments, we do need to find those good strategies to just help pull us out of those moments, because when those bad moments are extensive in length, then it just becomes feeling more of a bad life, because it's a very long extended moment. So yeah, we probably don't want to have that. So the other thing that I do is then really try to figure out what is the underlying cause of this feeling. Sometimes it's very obvious. Sometimes, I had maybe a disagreement with a colleague, or maybe I was asked to do something that I don't really agree with, but it's being mandated and it makes me feel like I have to go against a strong belief. I'm just throwing ideas out there. So it could be very obvious things. Or it could just be, I'm in this funk. I don't really know exactly what's happening. Then I think you have to do a little bit of investigating. So I did do a little bit of investigating today, and I know one of the reasons why I feel like just kind of not my best is I just did not sleep that well last night. I don't know. It's like it's almost fall, but it's been feeling like a sauna in my house, and I didn't sleep very well, and then it didn't help that I drank coffee all the way into the early afternoon yesterday. So I had a really bad time sleeping. In fact, usually sleeping for me is not an issue. I'm a great sleeper. No problem sleeping. If that were a hobby, that would be my hobby. But like I said, I just had such a difficult time last night sleeping. So I know when I started thinking about what is going on with me, why am I just not quite myself? That was why, because I was just, lack of sleep. And you guys know, if you've been listening, that I am someone who's very strict about my bedtime and as much as possible. I mean, obviously sometimes things happen, but I'm very strict about my bedtime. But I do find today's Monday, so yesterday was obviously Sunday, and I do find that Sunday nights those are the nights where I typically am going to stay up a little bit later. I don't adhere to the 8:30 bedtime. Yes, I know I'm ridiculous with that 8:30 bedtime, but hey, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do, and if a girl's got to sleep at 8:30, that's what she does. So yeah, just really try to get to the root cause. If it's something big, you're going to know what the cause is. But it could be something subtle. It could be several things that happen that just kind of got you, feeling kind of out of sorts and not quite, a little bit unbalanced. And knowing what the issue is going to help you, because then you know what you can do to get yourself out of this, or at least maybe prevent it. So I know I'm definitely going to bed at my correct bedtime tonight. I'm just so extremely exhausted, and plus I don't want to have another day like I had today. Again, not that it was that horrible, but I like to feel good during the day, and I just didn't quite feel good. So, so that really helped me to know, like, what do I need to do differently so that tomorrow can be a better day. Also, sometimes it's just an easy communication issue and you can fix it right up. I'm thinking school duties. And I remember one year I had before school duty. And I think I went through I think I managed one day of it, and then I switched with another teacher because I just couldn't do the before school duty. I am there. I get to school about 6:50-ish, somewhere around there. Sometimes a little bit earlier, sometimes a little bit later, and I don't open my classroom door until 7:55. But that's because I really need the time. I like to look through all the things that I'm doing during the day. I like to think about how I'm going to present what I'm presenting, how I'm going to talk about it. I like to make sure I've got what I need close by. If I have to make a poster, that's a great time for me to get a poster going. I really like to just ease into my day and look at what I need to do. It's just how I function. Because I don't really function well on a whim. I know that about myself. So I like to be very mentally prepared in anything that I do. So yeah, once I had the before school duty and I just could not hang, I switched with another teacher and I talked with the assistant principal, who is also the one who makes the schedules. And I just requested to her, I said, can I please not have before school duty? And I explained to her that even though I'm there at school, I really appreciate the time. So if it were at all possible, if I could just do after school duties instead of the before school, that for me would work out better, just because, I really, really need that time to really wrap my head around what the day is going to look like. And since I talked to her, I've only ever had after school duty. So it was a simple case of communicating what that request is. Now, it could have been that request maybe wouldn't have been able to be honored, not because of any particular reason, but perhaps, scheduling reasons. And if that had been the case, I would have had to figure out a way to work around it, because sometimes just because we request something doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be honored. Sometimes things just are not possible, but so far it's been possible, and it was really truly just, do I need to, relay some information to someone? So investigating what is the underlying cause of you not feeling so well, and then what can I do about that to make sure that this doesn't happen again, or at least tomorrow's a better day. How am I going to try to minimize this kind of feeling? Another thing that I like to ask myself is, am I just having an attitude problem? And I know that sounds kind of funny, but I have actually stopped myself, all in my head, of course. This would look pretty awkward done out loud, but I have stopped myself and just said, you know what, I'm being so negative about everything, which is not very typical of me. I really do not have, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a negative person, so I don't end up having a whole lot of problems with my attitude, but I have. And something that I've noticed is I can pick up on the energy of those around me, whereas I think all of us do this, right? So someone's complaining, someone's upset, and we pick that up. Someone is happy and puts that out, and we pick that up as well. So there was a time, and this was so long ago, I was not even a teacher when this particular incident happened, but I'm just remembering a time I used to have this coworker who would be very, very negative, and everything was a negative. And then I caught myself doing the same thing, and I was so upset with myself. I'm like, why am I turning everything into a negative? So I had to actually catch myself and stop myself. And every now and again, I catch myself not necessarily being in that same situation where I'm being negative all the time, but I will find myself in situations where I'm being negative about something. So maybe it's not everything that's coming out of my mouth is negative, but maybe I'm just having a negative attitude about something, and I just say, okay, I need to stop and try to change my attitude, because sometimes it's really, truly just an attitude thing. It really is, because there are going to be things that we can't control, things that we cannot control that we're not happy about. That's going to be part of it, not just in the teaching profession, but anything you do in life. There are things you can control. There are things you cannot control. Many things will be out of our control, and it will make us feel unpleased. We can't control it. It's just beyond what we can do. But what we can control is perhaps our reaction to it, perhaps our attitude about it. Those are the things that we can control. And that is what I really try to remind myself when I'm looking at something where perhaps I'm in a situation and, okay, I can't control this, actually. This is beyond my control. Am I pleased about it? Nope, not at all. I'm not pleased about it. So I need to just really check this attitude and maybe find a way to accept it, or at least find a way to not be negative about it. Sometimes it's a matter of finding a solution, maybe sometimes we just have to find that solution, or sometimes just accept that this is what it is for right now and I need to move on with my life, because yes, I understand the importance of speaking up, especially about important issues, but that's another thing too. I think sometimes are we going to make everything a battle? Is everything a war? Is everything worth fighting for? Some things are, but is everything? So yes, we do have to speak up when something is very important, when it is important that we voice our opinion. And especially if students have a part in this. But then there are some things where I don't like it, but it's not one of those things that I'm going to go to war for. So I'm going to save that energy and time for something else that I feel, okay, that is absolutely worthy of going to war. So yeah, just checking our attitudes and, thinking about accepting it if we can. And really all these things that I'm talking about when we're talking about having a bad day, so a lot of it is going to be because maybe it was, something I disagreed with, but, do I want to let it ruin my day? Probably not. So we just kind of want to put it in there, which actually leads really well into my next point, is asking yourself and really checking this. Am I giving someone or something else too much power over my emotions? And yeah, oftentimes that is the case. Sometimes we can hand over too much power, and it always reminds me of Eleanor Roosevelt's quote, that says something to the effect that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. I actually remind myself of that when I start feeling that, maybe I've given this person too much power over me. Maybe I've let this person's words have too much of an impact, and I need to be the one to just say, okay, I'm not going to let that cause me to feel this way. I'm not going to give you all that power, because most of the time that's what it is. We're just handing over all this power. Well, no one person should have the power to ruin our day, right? So that's easier said than done, I know, but that's why it's really important to check ourselves and just remind ourselves that this, ultimately we are going to have to create that happiness if there's going to be happiness. We can't really rely on, obviously we hope that others can contribute to our happiness, but sometimes they don't, and sometimes they might actually contribute to our unhappiness. So that's where we have to be very careful and just remind ourselves that, no, I'm not going to hand over this power. I'm not going to allow you to make me feel a certain way, because truly no one can make you feel a certain way, right? Like, someone might say something, someone could do something, but they can't make you feel something. That might be your natural reaction. That might be more of a cause and effect thing. But you at that point can take back everything that, all of the control. You can take it back and just remind yourself that, no, I ultimately can control the way that I'm feeling, and I'm going to give that power back to me. So, sometimes it's a case of maybe I had a coach in the room and everything fell to pieces. That has happened before, and has made me feel that it just totally ruined my day. made me feel like, okay, this day's gone because of this really bad experience, because just things didn't go well. It was just one of those days where every student was having, something happen, and, just everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and someone else was in the room to observe all of this. And yeah, that's fun. I have had that happen before. So it's just kind of reminding yourself that, okay, so I need to be easy on myself, and I also not give so much power to that person. And grant, I'm not trying to say that any of our coaches ever make us feel that way. They're actually really, really great and understanding. But it is something that I will take very, very difficult, and it's good to reflect, but it's also important to just understand that you gotta just let some things go. And if something unfortunate happens, or there's something unfortunate happens, someone else is there to witness it, well, that's just kind of how it worked out, and we got to move on from there. So not giving others too much power, to really taking back that power. Okay, next, this is big, and they're all big, but something that I like to do is really just take care of myself in the moment, and take care of myself in that day. So, okay, let's say I'm not having the best day. What can I do right now that's going to make me feel better? Something that usually makes me feel a little better is just making myself tea. Even if it's not like a health related, maybe my bad day has nothing to do with health, but I really like tea for whatever reason. Yes, I also love coffee, but I usually don't drink coffee much into the afternoon. So yeah, just something that, what can I do right here in the school day that's going to make me feel better? If it's, I want to get a cup of tea, that's going to make me feel better. Okay, then I'm going to do it. It's like these small little pleasures and enjoyments. If you're someone, or maybe for you, it's, I'm going to hit up Starbucks or some coffee shop and, have something there that I love, and that favorite coffee or that favorite drink or whatever is going to make me feel better, assuming that you're in driving distance to a Starbucks or such a place. Or it might be a trip that you take after school, and maybe that's also your little thing that you have to look forward to help you get through the bad day. But yeah, I feel like usually it's really nice to have something in the moment, if at all possible, in the moment, that is going to make you feel better and just help you to focus on some small, pleasurable something that's going to make you feel happy and kind of help to switch that moment for you and just kind of help you get through that negative feeling. So that's important. So something else that I really think is very important and kind of goes along with taking deep breaths, which that was like one of the first things that I said. But sometimes I just, aside from just taking a breath, sometimes I need to take a moment. And it's difficult if all of this is happening in the classroom with the students, but it's very possible. So sometimes I just need to take that moment inside the classroom. Sometimes it's okay, I want to take a little walk, and we have a track that I used to go walking lots. I really don't utilize it that much anymore, but sometimes it's like, okay, maybe I'm just going to go the long way somewhere, or just get up and walk around. Granted, this would be if I'm not actually teaching. I can't get up and walk while I'm teaching for obvious reasons, I think. But yeah, just finding these little things that maybe I actually do need to physically detach from where I am right now, just to kind of sometimes it helps to see something different, get in a different physical environment if you can, and just try to get yourself in a different mindset. And then one other thing that I really try to do, which sometimes can be very, very difficult when you're having a bad day, but it is really just trying to enjoy your students. That's really tough. I just feel like this is one of the most challenging things when you're having a bad day is enjoying the students. And that's really sad because that's why we're at school, right? Normally, I really, really enjoy my students. I find them funny. I've mentioned that I like to laugh. So I like to make jokes. I like to be around people who joke. I like to laugh. I like to be silly with my students. I like to be silly and, sometimes just really ham it up in the classroom. I mean, I really do, because part of it is, yes, I know we're not there to entertain students. And yes, I've heard that plenty of times. But, I'm kind of doing it to entertain myself. Actually, more than anything else, I enjoy being, a little bit silly and goofy. Granted, it's got to be on a day that I can be silly and goofy. Sometimes the class is just, you just have days where, oh no, there's no room for anything that's not serious. And then there's, days where, okay, we can be silly. This can be a silly day and it's not going to jeopardize the structure of the classroom. So you just kind of have to feel out. But I really have fun with the kids. I do, because I have fun with what I'm doing. But is it not just so difficult when you're having a bad day? It is so difficult to get in the classroom and just really thoroughly enjoy your students. But we've got to really, really try, because that's why we're there. So those times that are most challenging to us are going to be the times that we have to really, really look deep inside and really reach, try to enjoy the students and enjoy what they have to offer. Hopefully our bad days won't coincide with other students' bad days, but you know what? Sometimes it does. And then the challenge is really on. Try to have a bad day and then enjoy the students when you might have a couple of them having a bad day, and it's like, you almost feel like, I can't do this. But we have to. I mean, that's what we do. So, try to enjoy the students, because I think that can be something else that pulls us out of a funk and a bad day, especially if there is a particular student who maybe their personality is just a funny one, or they just, they're that student who makes you feel great and they have this energy about them. You might gravitate towards those students. Not saying that we're ignoring our other students, but we're trying to look for ways to get out of this funk, and we can do that by enjoying those students, but especially the ones who just really energize us in a certain way that makes us feel good about what we're doing, and can give us energy and really help pull ourselves out of a bad day. Maybe not pull ourselves out, but if anything, help to make it a little bit easier. And that is going to conclude today's episode 23, How to Survive a Bad Day. Now, you may have noticed that I don't always include the episode number at the beginning of my episodes now, and that's actually because I have been batching episodes. So a lot of times I have things pre-recorded and I don't necessarily know what order I'm going to put them out. So that's why sometimes I don't know which episode number it is until I am ready to release it. I started this episode weeks ago. Maybe it's been a month. I don't know. I mean, I was still in the classroom climate series, and we're now in the student centered series. So it has been a while, but yeah, so I'm sometimes just putting the episode number at the end when I have things figured out, because that's kind of how it goes. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because it is that time, and my daughter has her music going on very loudly in the background, and Uber Eats is bringing me breakfast. So it's a great time to wrap things up. In any case, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, and hopefully you got something out of it that you can try the next time you're trying to survive a bad day. And hey, if you do find this useful, I would love for you to let me know. I can be found on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Tammy J123, that's TAMIJ123, because I am that creative. Yes, indeed. Wait a minute. Wait 1 minute. Before you go, don't forget you can catch our show notes online at www.timetoteach.libsyn. That's libsyn.com. We're also on Facebook at Time to Teach. Don't forget to check out our Facebook group, Teachers for Effective Curriculum. And if you're an educator with your own podcast show, I invite you to join our brand new Facebook group, Teachers Who Podcast. Let's grow a community where we can network, problem solve, and discuss anything and everything podcast related. I'll see you there. 1, 2, 3. That could be a lie. I think it's actually Tammy J at, oh God, this is all going downhill very fast.